The champs walked in undefeated. They walked out, staring at the floor, shaking their heads, and, most shocking of all, praising the rookie who just carved their name off the league's power ranking throne. Caitlin Clark didn't simply hand New York its first loss. She flipped a switch that forced two of basketball's most decorated stars to admit, on live microphones, that guarding her felt basically impossible. When reigning MVP Breanna Stewart smiles after a dagger splashes in her face, and Sabrina Ionescu starts explaining exactly how the rookie broke their game plan, you're watching more than a bad night for the Liberty. You're watching a changing of the guard. New York's pregame tunnel looked like a designer runway. Fresh kicks, diamond-glinting rings, and the breezy confidence of a squad yet to taste defeat. ESPN analysts were already debating how long they could keep the zero in the loss column. One state south, Indiana's narrative felt inverted. The Fever had just survived 5 grim games without their headliner. The scouting report said dangerous but raw. Even the most optimistic Indy fan framed tip-off as a measuring stick night. Keep it close, steal a moral victory, maybe make a statement about the future. But basketball doesn't hand out moral victories, and Caitlin Clark wasn't interested in deferred timelines. 3 minutes into the first quarter, the Liberty led by 11, flexing every switch and close out like a coach clinic demonstration. Then Clark strolled across half court, barely glancing at the arc, and lofted a 34-footer that never touched rim. 30 seconds later, she popped free on the opposite wing. 31 feet, pure. Stewart side-eyed the bench for adjustments, but the ball was back in Clark's hands almost before the timeout horn could sound. Another logo pull, net, tie game, and the mood inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse detonated. 9 points in 38 seconds. The scoreboard flipped, the building shook, New York's perfect aura cracked. They weren't fluke makes. The footwork was identical on all three, the release point razor fast, the confidence unnerving. For defenders, it felt like trying to guard a fast break in the half court. Close out and she's already in her gather, sag and the shot is airborne. Those 38 seconds told the Liberty that every scouting report paragraph about pick her up at the logo wasn't a suggestion. It was survival protocol. And Indiana had rung up 53 on a defense that hadn't allowed that many in a first half all season. She finished with 32-something, 7 threes, and a plus-minus that read like a typo. Indy shot 48% from deep, splashing a franchise record 17 triples thanks to the spacing her gravity created. New York's vaunted pick-and-roll attack looked sluggish. Their transition game sputtered because Clark kept turning rebounds into jailbreak outlets before Stewart and Ionescu could even glance at their bench calls. The Liberty still reached the free throw line more often, still owned the glass during stretches, yet never truly threatened. Every time they trimmed the margin to single digits, Clark answered with a dagger or a laser-skip dime. By the fourth quarter, Indiana's bench was laughing, high-fiving, and shouting, "She's back!" while the champs searched for answers that didn't exist. Most teams lose, mumble clichés, and blame execution. Not this time. Post-game, Sabrina Ionescu leaned into the mic and said matter-of-factly, "We gave her too many easy looks. Her range changes everything." She even added she was really happy Clark looked healthy because the league needs her. That's not PR polish. That's a pure hooper paying respect to a sharpshooter who just burned her defensive scheme alive. Stewart followed, voice calm, but eyes still processing the chaos. She described trying to navigate switches, only to find Clark's trigger already pulled. Then she laughed. Actually laughed, remembering the 34-footer that sailed over her contest. That laugh wasn't defeatist. It was the grin of a competitor acknowledging rare greatness. When a 2-time MVP can only shrug and smile, your night was special. Put a sniper 35 feet from the hoop, and defenders stretch like taffy. Pull just 2 steps farther, and every off-ball cut becomes a freeway lane. That's the Clark effect. Spacing you can't practice against until you see it live. New York tried trapping high, so Clark hit Aaliyah Boston on short rolls for easy layups. They switched smaller guards, so she dragged the mismatch into deep water and splashed stepbacks. They finally shadowed her with a second body before she crossed half court, and Sydney Colson waltzed through a vacuum for an uncontested 3. Her presence didn't just boost spacing, it rewired tempo. The Fever, bottom 5 in fast break production without her, generated 19 transition chances with her. That pace ripped the Liberty out of their half-court comfort zone. Brondello admitted post-game they overworked starters chasing runouts they normally dictate. Clark's influence is like a metronome set 2 clicks too fast. Defenses know the beat is off but can't slow it down without watching her pull from the logo. Before tip, the Liberty were the WNBA's destiny story. Shimmering offense, stingy defense, undefeated swagger. By midnight, social feeds were debating whether Indiana, yes, the same team that looked lost 2 weeks earlier, had the league's deadliest ceiling. National viewership spiked again during Clark's comeback, reinforcing the quiet league office reality. She is the spotlight, and the spotlight now follows Indy's win-loss column. Inside New York's camp, the loss sparked identity questions. Stewart admitted they'd strayed from defensive pride. Ionescu acknowledged their offense stalled when Clark's logo bombs forced them to press. When dynasties in waiting start introspection 10 games into a season, you recognize the tremor's magnitude. Around the league, coaches cued the tape on loop. Las Vegas scribbled new off-ball coverages. Seattle's scouting staff highlighted every fever pin down that morphed into a back-cut layup because the help defender refused to leave Clark. Even bottom-tier teams saw a blueprint. If you can't respect 30-foot gravity, you're surrendering 16 points before halftime. The Commissioner's Cup standings shifted overnight. Indiana vaulted into the East's top slot. New York tumbled from invincible to vulnerable. Bloggers rewrote MVP ladders, slotting Clark beneath only Wilson and Stewart. Talk shows debated whether her rookie-year roller coaster just ended and her prime began. Were Sabrina and Stewie genuinely impressed, or politely digesting an ugly L? Rewatch their body language. There's no side-eye, no forced chuckle, no passive-aggressive shade. It's real. Stewart's grin after the logo swish wasn't performative. It was the universal athlete response to witnessing rare talent up close. Ionescu's detailed praise of Clark's shot prep timing came from one sniper dissecting another. You can fake compliments, but you can't fake technical admiration. When undefeated champions sit at a podium and openly concede they had no answer for a sophomore guard fresh off a quad strain, a line gets drawn in league history. On one side, the Liberty's shiny rings and lofty expectations. On the other, Caitlin Clark's limitless range, and a fever squad morphing into something no one wants to face in a 5-game series. This wasn't a fluky hot night. It was systematic disassembly. Tempo, spacing, psyche, all bent to Clark's will. She forced the best to admit she's already part of their scouting nightmares. The next time these teams meet, New York will bring new schemes, new wrinkles, maybe even new humility. But the scoreboard won't remember excuses. It only remembers buckets. And right now, the most unavoidable buckets in basketball, loft from well beyond the arc, spinning off Caitlin Clark's fingertips. So you tell us, were Sabrina and Stewie paying genuine homage, or gracefully swallowing the hardest L of this young season? Drop your take below, smack that subscribe, hit the bell, and keep an eye on the calendar. Because every rematch from here on out isn't just a game. It's another chapter in the era Caitlin Clark just kicked wide open. So you tell us, were Sabrina and Stewie paying genuine homage, or gracefully swallowing the hardest L of this young season? Drop your take below, smack that subscribe, hit the bell, and keep an eye on the calendar. Because every rematch from here on out isn't just a game. It's another chapter in the era Caitlin Clark just kicked wide open.